The moment John Kennedy stepped into the grand halls of the Capitol, a hush fell over him, but not the respectful silence of admiration. It was the cold, dismissive quiet of indifference. Faces turned away, conversations halted, only to resume in whispers as if he were invisible. Months of work, proposals, and heartfelt speeches had landed him here, at the center of power, yet no one seemed willing to truly see him. Kennedy had expected challenges, but not this pervasive disregard, this quiet erasure. He walked slowly, his polished shoes echoing against the marble floor, feeling the weight of history press down on him. Portraits of long-dead legislators, men and women who had shaped the nation, stared down with permanent scrutiny. He wondered, bitterly, if they, too, had ever felt the sting of being ignored. In the distance, a cluster of senior officials and lawmakers clustered together, laughter and conversation bouncing off the high ceilings. He tried to approach, tried to insert himself into debates, only to be brushed aside with polite nods and vacant smiles. It wasn't outright hostility, just apathy, a subtle, soul-crushing invisibility. But Kennedy had a secret. He had never learned to give up. In the quiet moments, he recalled the letters from constituents, parents worried about their children, veterans struggling to find support, teachers desperate for resources. He had promised them a voice, and he refused to let bureaucracy and indifference silence it. He tightened his tie, squared his shoulders, and walked on. Weeks turned into months. Kennedy submitted reports, proposed amendments, spoke in committee hearings, but no one listened. His ideas were acknowledged only to vanish into stacks of ignored papers. Meetings ended with polite nods, yet no commitment. The isolation gnawed at him. Even allies hesitated to push his proposals, wary of rocking the entrenched system. It seemed as if the Capitol itself were a wall, cold, imposing, and immovable. Then came the day that changed everything. Kennedy had learned of a young intern, Daniel, who had grown disillusioned watching the same cycles of indifference. Daniel, barely 22, carried his own dreams of justice and reform. Kennedy noticed him quietly taking notes during sessions, observing the same patterns of dismissal he had endured. Something in the young man's eyes mirrored his own resolve, the same refusal to be ignored. Kennedy approached him after a particularly frustrating meeting, where even senior legislators had ignored his impassioned plea for better veteran care. "I see what you see," Kennedy said softly, not as a superior, but as a fellow traveler in the endless corridors of bureaucracy. "It's easy to feel invisible here. But I've learned a truth: sometimes, being ignored is the first step to being heard." Daniel looked up, surprise and hope flickering across his face. Kennedy shared stories of previous battles, of moments when silence had seemed permanent, but where Percy